Don't take any corporate PAC money. And our critique of Congressman Engel is he's completely funded by corporate PACs. He's completely funded by large donors.
Democratic challenger Jamaal Bowman recently debated incumbent Eliot Engel in the race for New York's 16th district. And I got some highlights. Now, before I get to these highlights, I just want to give you a 30-second overview. This is from Jamaal Bowman's page about who he is. This is a candidate backed by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie Sanders, and others. This is a race to watch. So Eliot Engel, as I'm going to show you, doesn't even have certain endorsements that you would expect him to have. But before I get there and to any of these clips, let me show you this 30-second ad from Jamaal Bowman.
As a public school principal who has served our community for 10 years, I know that all families in our community are on the front lines of this pandemic. I'm Jamaal Bowman, public school educator for 20 years, the son of a single mom raised in public housing. In Congress, I will fight for universal health care through Medicare for all. I'll fight to bring down the cost of rent and housing so families can keep food on the table and a roof over their heads. Vote for Jamaal Bowman to be your next representative in Congress.
All right, so that gives you a quick overview of Jamaal Bowman. His website, which I'll also link to below the video in the description box, bowmanforcongress.com. But let me first show you some of his endorsements. So Jermaine Williams, who is the public advocate in New York City, has endorsed him. AOC, Bernie Sanders, Justice Dem, Sunrise Movement, Working Families. So some solid endorsements here for Jamaal Bowman. And let's get to the first clip. So this is Jamaal Bowman's position when it comes to defunding the police and how it compares to Eliot Engel.
I always like to quote a saying by my good friend Congressman John Lewis, who was a civil rights activist, who's endorsing me for re-election. He says, we may have all come here on different ships, but now we're all in the same boat together. We as Americans are all in the same boat together. We have to fix our society. It's wounded and it's broken, and we have to change it, and we have to work as hard as we can, and hopefully we'll come up with a system. It won't be perfect, but it'll be a system where people will feel a modicum of fairness instead of what they feel right now.
When we say we have a long way to go, how long are people of color in this country going to wait to get there? How long are people in poverty going to wait to get there? So yes, I support the defunding of the police, because if we reinvest in jobs, there won't be a need for as large of a police force that we have, and there won't be a need for militarization of the police. There's no need for that anyway. And Congressman Engel, when you say we came here on different ships, you're absolutely correct. African Americans came here on slave ships. We were shackled and chained. We are the only people on this land that actually existed on this land as property, as capital. And when you say we're in the same boat, we're not in the same boat. People of African descent are more likely to live in poverty. They're more likely to be killed by the police. They're more likely to be incarcerated, more likely to live in areas where housing has been neglected. So we have to have real conversations and direct conversations to deal with institutional racism and institutional classism. And we can't say, it's going to take a long while. The whole country is rising up because we're tired of waiting. We're sick and tired of being sick and tired.
All right. The choice here couldn't be more obvious. Jamaal Bowman actually speaks from experience and understands that you need to defund the police. Now, a lot of people get scared at that slogan, defund the police. Honestly, I don't know why, but I'll try to help you not be scared. Defund simply means taking resources away from the police departments and putting those responsibilities into other areas. So if you look at budgets, city budgets, the amount of money that has been poured into police departments, while education has seen cuts, healthcare has seen cuts, infrastructure spending has seen cuts. You go down the list, everything else over the years has been cut, while more and more money has been poured into the police department. And that's largely because of these police unions that have so much power over mayors. So nothing is really going to change unless you defund the police and take responsibilities off of the police. So the idea of dealing with mental health, that shouldn't be a police issue. Dealing with homelessness shouldn't be a police issue. That can go to public housing. Mental health, go to public health. If you think about how the police are treated as sort of this one-size-fits-all approach, Clearly, it hasn't worked. It makes a lot more sense to actually specify, to have certain departments or agencies focus in on these various areas and take those responsibilities away from the cops. So that's all the approach is. It's not that crazy. Now, when it comes to Eliot Engel, I mean, one of his first lines here really cracked me up. He said, "We'll come up with a system. It won't be perfect." Like, already conceding that whatever we come up with, it's going to suck. But, this has always been the approach of Democrats. Just giving up before they even begin. That's what Eliot Engel perfectly encapsulates there. Now, let me show you this non-endorsement. So, Chuck Schumer, Senate Leader Chuck Schumer, holds off on endorsing Eliot Engel. I mean, if Chuck Schumer, who is a New York senator, isn't going to endorse Eliot Engel, also in New York and an incumbent, I mean, what does that tell you? And in fact, this is pretty funny because apparently, as Dave Weigel here tweets out, the endorsement page on Eliot Engel's website before and after Schumer got asked about the race and said he wasn't intervening. So apparently, Chuck Schumer was listed on Eliot Engel's website as an endorser. And then after Schumer said he's not endorsing, all of a sudden it's missing. Now, Kristen Gillibrand, I'm really curious what she thinks about this, as she appears to be the only senator, at least in the screenshot, that backs Eliot Engel. All right. Next clip here, and I mean, it just keeps going.
Don't take any corporate PAC money. And our critique of Congressman Engel is he's completely funded by corporate PACs. He's completely funded by large donors. He's completely funded by weapons manufacturers, big pharmaceutical companies, and big real estate companies. You cannot call yourself a progressive when you're accountable to corporate PACs and weapons manufacturers. And when you look at his voting record, allowing the sale of cluster bombs to Saudi Arabia, opposing Barack Obama's signature foreign policy, which is the Iran deal, Eliot Engel opposed that deal. So when you look at who funds him and what he votes for, you see a conflict of interest in terms of his foreign policy.
All right, this is maybe one of the more enlightening clips here. As if you didn't know, Eliot Engel did not support the Iran deal. So Eliot Engel essentially has Donald Trump's position when it comes to foreign policy, or at least when it comes to Iran. But if you look at the money that Eliot Engel takes in from weapons manufacturers, I mean, it's clear there is a certain perspective here that is funded by the money that backs him. And you go deeper. This is Eliot Engel's campaign summary, as you see here. Scroll down. This is on opensecrets.org. Scroll down and look at where his money comes from. Large individual contributions makes up almost 80% of the money he gets. Small individual contributions, 2.19%. And PAC contributions, 18%. So gives you a little idea of what influences Eliot Engel's policy. Now, when it comes to Jamaal Bowman, he doesn't take that corporate money. He operates on individual donors, mostly small individual donors, and that's how he's supported. Now, let me go to, I think this is the last clip. So this continues the discussion around the police.
A correction to something Congressman Engel mentioned. You know, he mentioned that things have changed over the last few weeks, but if you're African American in this country, things have not changed at all. We deal with institutional racism on a daily basis, and I've dealt with police brutality and police harassment my entire life. The first time I was beaten by police, I was 11 years old. A few years later, I was smacked around by police just for being a boisterous young man. And it's something that we consistently deal with. So as we deal with and as we engage with police brutality as part of institutional racism, we have to engage with all institutional racism and where it exists in education, healthcare, housing, and environmental justice. The federal policy that we need to address involves immunity. Right now, police have immunity where if they violate someone's civil rights, the person is not allowed to sue them. That is unacceptable. We need to increase police accountability, not just in terms of ending that immunity, but also in terms of independent federal investigations. If the police committed a crime, we need the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate at a federal level. In addition, we need to reallocate resources that are going to militarizing the police. Eliot Engel supported the 1994 crime bill, which led to the militarization of our police force. We need to reallocate those resources toward nurses, teachers, mental health professionals, social workers, jobs, housing, and rebuild our communities so that they can be de-policed as opposed to being occupied by the police as we see it today.
Again, I mean, he lays it all out. The idea of defunding the police and where that money should go. And also discussing how he was beaten by police at 11 years old. Like, this is the experience that people like me, people like Eliot Engel, just have no idea. I mean, it really, hopefully, offers some perspective here, offers some context to what the black community has dealt with for forever. So I think, and also the fact that Engel backed the crime bill, the 94 crime bill, as to be fair, as a lot of Democrats did, but horrible bill that led to the situation that we are in today when it comes to the police and the militarization, as Jamaal Bowman points out, of the police. So, I mean, I think the choice here is clear. And even if you're not in New York, I mean, consider donating to Jamaal Bowman. Again, the link is below the video in the description box. Let me just share one last tweet here. This is from Ava Benzra. Tweets out, we had 200 dialers on for Jamaal Bowman tonight, and they made 58,000 calls 13 days before the election. So not only are they, receiving small individual donors, or small individual donations, and that's how they're running their campaign, but also the volunteer base here. You have these volunteers, people engaged in the campaign. This is how AOC won. Now, in the case when it came to AOC, there wasn't a pandemic going around. So she was actually able to go door to door, knock on doors, have volunteers go out with her, knock door to door. Jamaal Bowman doesn't have that ability right now. So he needs all the help he can get when it comes to winning this race. Hopefully those high profile endorsements in AOC and Bernie Sanders will help a little bit. And hopefully debates like this and me sharing this around and you sharing this around will hopefully help him as well. This is a race that it would be so sweet to see Jamaal Bowman take this seat from Eliot Engel. And understand that if Bowman wins the primary, he's very likely to win the entire race, as this is a deeply blue district. So this primary is everything. So support Jamaal Bowman. Again, link is below the video.